Hey everybody, welcome to Campus to Contracts. As always, we have the best and the brightest. Mason Williams, how are you doing today?
I'm well. Thank you so much. Good to see you. Happy to be on here again.
It's always good to see you. Travels here and there. We both continue to travel around the country. You're looking for the greatest talent in the world, and I'm just getting money left and right because that's what I do. So we are back talking about college and about college players and the lack or the importance of a plan. Now, I know as a parent, it is very difficult to navigate the waters of high school. I have a couple high school kids. There's a lot of things going on. There's a lot of people giving advice. Some are better than others, believe it or not. And some of that advice you want to take to the bank, and some of that advice you need to throw out. The problem that I see in our environment today is that college athletes, at very young people, these are not seasoned vets, continue to struggle with, who do I listen to? And when I look at what your role is, I continue to put your role higher and higher on the list of, you're the person, your team or the agent or the manager is important because of so many areas. They're able to focus you in on the right items at the right times. Why don't you give me a couple examples of players listening to the wrong advice, and then how you're able to craft things in a plan so these players have a future that kind of matches with where they want to go?
I think that right now, what we see, especially kind of towards the aftermath of the transfer portal. Now, just so we know, guys, everyone, the transfer portal is a time where the player could put their name in the portal. That doesn't mean you have to transfer during the opening. The last transfer window opening was April 16th to April 25th. But there are still players that are in the transfer portal that put their names in during that window that are still looking for universities to go and play at. So sometimes those players that now left their university, put their name in the portal and have nowhere to go, they start to panic and they start to think that they need to scramble and they need to hurry up and just get to a school. That process, in a way, could end up hurting that athlete's career because they end up going to the wrong university. They end up just taking the first thing that comes to them, or some very sloppy advice on, you should go here, they're a good team, or you should go there, they have this going for them, new coach, new staff, new whatever the case is, but they don't actually do their own research to see how is it going to fare if that individual goes to that team. So there's a lot of, miscommunication. There's a lot of sweaty hands. There's a lot of quick triggers being pulled, especially at this time of the year where they feel like, okay, I need to get to a university. I need to get to that team. I need to get on that roster before their summer camp starts, before, the coaches get back and the other players get back. You need to relax. If you end up going to the wrong school, you're going to be in a worse hole than you were before, because the next time you could transfer out is in December.
Ooh. So I keep running this scenario in my brain because I know people make quick decisions in life, and sometimes they're based on feelings, vibes, what have you. When you're talking about a plan and a path forward, you continuously say your path is not college, your path is to the NFL. That's where you want to go. And you continue to work with these players to get there. So you're looking at what happened this year with this team. How do you get on film? And then where do you go next? I keep thinking about a college student and how many poor decisions, whether it's diet, the credit card scams that they put on college kids. These are just avenues that are doors that are wide open for people to make bad decisions. And at that age, not having someone in their corner that's able to help them see through a couple corners to actually ask the question. So if you went to this school or if you went to that school, what does it look like in December? Or did you just waste a whole year of eligibility?
For some kids, it's possible that they did waste a year of eligibility, right? Some of them haven't retained their red shirts. Some of them haven't, thought about it critically of where they're going to be at when they're on that new university, because it is about eligibility. It's about the years that you have to play to showcase your skills so you can go to the NFL. That's the whole point of this process. So it's very critical on where you go to the next university to go play or to not, or whatever the case is, because it's a very rare situation where you'll find a kid in the transfer portal who has maintained their red shirt, which is, another thing in itself.
So when you're mapping out something like this in high school or even with your college athlete, you're even taking into account the red shirt. You're taking into account graduating and going to another university. So you're literally working through an entire checklist of items that they've never even thought about.
Yeah, so there's also skill level and how ready they are to go to that highest level of college football, right? Quite frankly, there's situations where I tell a kid, hey, you might not be ready to play at that level. You need to go to a group of 5 school, maybe even an FCS school. You need to play there for a year, showcase yourself, and then transfer up after that. There's plenty of conversations that I have with players that need to do that. A lot of times, I also recommend junior college for a lot of players because of the junior college rule that just came out where the kids don't lose eligibility when it comes to them playing Division 1 or Division 2 or whatever case football. So junior college is now a really great tool to help kids develop and not lose their years of eligibility. So you can use junior college whenever you need to. It can be very strategic depending on the situation of the athlete.
What are some telltale signs for a kid in this process where you're like, these are just bad signs?
Bad signs is, well, first thing, bad statistics. They didn't produce in high school. They're not getting the attention that they should be getting from colleges, which is not a bad thing. For example, right? Like my own younger brother, who's on year 5 in the NFL, plays for the Philadelphia Eagles. He had 0 offers out of high school, but somehow he made it to the NFL, right? So it's not, for me, I don't look at a player's ability by do you have offers or do you not have offers, or do you have stars or do you not have stars. It's not about that. I can look at the film and I can see if you're a good player, if you have the potential, and I can steer you in the right direction. I've actually ran into some players that had really good high school careers in very low ranking, like high school football states, that ended up at very low caliber universities to play football, right? And my recommendation was, if you want to change something, you need to go to junior college. You need to play against some very high caliber talent, because junior college has a lot of high caliber talent. And then you will prove yourself to coaches and you can be able to transfer up and go to a school that I think that you really are the type of caliber player to go play at. Sometimes it's just a recognition. Sometimes you do get lost in the sauce. Sometimes you're in a very big flooded state, which happens to California players all the time, happens to Florida and Texas players all the time. But sometimes you're the best player in a state like, no offense, but Oregon or South Dakota or Montana or, Maine or something like that, where there's not a lot of high caliber talent coming out of those states. Again, no offense to those states and to those players, but there's just not a great history in those areas. So some of the universities take that into account, and they may think that player is not, that good of a player because the competition that they have in high school isn't good enough and their development isn't there. But that's simply not true for every player. If you can play, you can play. I really do believe that. So, if they put it out on the field and they're just from one of these not as highly ranked or caliber leveled, states for college football or college sport or high school football or high school sports, then sometimes you end up with players that are at lower divisional football programs, even though they should be at higher caliber programs, right? So it is, as an agent, to recognize that if you're working with a player, you got to recognize that, and then you have to steer and maneuver that player to get to that level. But the way you do it isn't just, oh, we're going to the Power 4 or bust. We're going to the ACC or SEC or Big 10 or Big 12 or bust. No, maybe they need to go to JUCO. That doesn't mean they're a JUCO level player or whatever the case is, but they need that. They need that push. They need that, environment to give them that exposure so that they can then transfer up, or they go to a very low caliber university, they go to an FCS school, they go to a group of 5 school, and they play there really well as soon as they get there, and then they transfer up. So I use that technique a lot with a lot of players that I personally, from watching their film, because I watch a lot of film, I think that they have talent. I think that they could get there. I think there's a couple things they may need to work on, or they were just simply lost in the sauce and they need to be in an environment where they can prove themselves. Because if I'm watching film from a player that may not have had the best high school competitions, I still don't know how good they are. I know that they're better than everyone in that environment, but I need to put them in an area or an environment that now I can validate, all right, this is how good this kid is. So I use JUCO a lot. I use group of 5 schools a lot. I use FCS schools. So then we can find out what's what.
Whose ego is the worst to deal with when you're dealing with this? Is it the parents or is it the player? When you're dealing with someone who's not willing to sign or not willing to work with you, but you understand the value and you talk to them. Obviously, you don't need to beg people to work with you. But when you get somebody on board, but there's some hesitancy in their group, right? Their A team, their core team. Who do you find? What are the biggest hurdles that you see personality wise, like ego, certain like I will only go and play X, Y, or Z, or I will only play for X, Y, or Z, or is it just what are the issues that you see?
It's definitely a case to case basis per family, per player, right? There's some players that there's a lot of people that have unrealistic expectations. Some players, some parents, some people think that their kid should be here. Some players think that they should be there. When it comes to signing with me, I mean, you're right. I don't beg because I have a lot of players already. But there is a part of me that, and I think I've talked to you off camera about this, where I should just do consulting, because there are some families or some players that don't need a full blown agent. They just need some direction. Maybe just an hour conversation will change their trajectory, right? So they don't need me to be there the whole time. But when it comes to, the egos, I run into different types of egos. There's some kids that are very humble that understand, hey, I need to take a very different route in order to get where I want to go. Some parents have no idea. A lot of it is a lack of education, though. I don't think it's really ego. Everyone wants to be the best player they could be. Everyone believes that they're a good player, but the education aspect it's fleeting. It's not there, right? Because a parent isn't looking at other parents as kids. They aren't really looking at everything around them. They're focused on their child. That child is focused on himself or herself and his or her teammates. They don't, for the most part, they don't see everyone's situation. And they definitely don't talk to like general managers or head coaches like I do and understand, hey, I like this kid better, or this kid I like better. Or, yeah, we're looking at a kid from over here and over there. Like, there's so many times where I talk about like a university or a kid that I had from university, and they tell me, oh, we actually like this kid over there better, or we've been looking at a guy who has a similar size over from this university or this high school, right? Like, so just because I have good close relationships with some of these universities and these teams and these coaches and ADs and general managers or what have you, I get more information than the information I was probably talking to them about in the first place. So again, the separation between me and a parent is just the education level and the leverage that I have with multiple players. Like, I'm talking to multiple players and multiple coaches. Yeah, they're talking to multiple coaches, but then they have one player or two players or however is in their family, right? So it's just the bandwidth that I have is so far outreaching theirs that I just have a different perspective. And when I talk to them, I don't take that for granted that, I have a very wide perspective on things, and they just may not know. And I don't blame them because it's so confusing right now. How much college football has changed and how many things have changed in the last 3 to 4 years is so fast that it's hard for a lot of people to keep up. It's hard. There's already been another rule change, like we were talking about earlier with the ranking system. Every single year, there's something different. There's a new kickoff rule. There's new this rule. There's new this rule. There's this. There's that. People are having these NIL deals and these collective deals and all this. And it's just a big mush pot of grayness, and people don't know how to maneuver through it. They're doing the best that they can, but sometimes the best that they can isn't good enough because they're just not educated enough. And I think that's what leads to maybe some of the ego that you're referring to when you do hear, rumors about players that want this or want that, or don't want to sign with this person or don't want to sign with that person, or just don't want to listen because they think they know better. But they don't know what's going on. They don't know that coach, even though he said that you're going to be the one quarterback they want to bring in, they're bringing in 3 other ones at the same time. And they told the same story to all of them. Right? So
why wouldn't you?
Exactly. The coach's job is to win games. You're only going to be there for 4 to 5 years. You can only play 4 years max. That's
Right.
it.
Right.
You can't play more than that. So he's going to be there longer than that, potentially.
I always look at this struggle because, again, I keep going back to like my 18, 19-year-old self. And when I look at that, it's like you make boneheaded decisions. You make them in very short stints and you think you're making the right decision. And at 18, it's like, what do you want to be? You got to pick your major. And if you have a 4-year degree major or something that you want to do and get a master's degree on, you got to get to work on that pretty quickly. This is very similar, and it's very heady, and it's a lot of brain power in the background here. And a lot of people are just like, nope, talent, playtime. If you're the most talented person, you're going to get play, which we already proven that's not the case. And or if you're the most, if your options are the best, that means they're always going to be the best. That's also not the case. So when I look at it from your perspective, is you've seen enough tape and you've talked to enough coaches and enough GMs and enough people to know what good looks like in these areas and what they're looking for, because the game changes and they look for different position players and different talent because they're trying to adapt to the game and to win a championship. So these coaches are adapting every single, I would say, year, but I would even argue every 6 months because of spring ball now. And then, of course, you have the season. So I think every 6 months, they're trying to adapt their team to win the most. So you're in the know on that. Where if I'm a parent, I'm ecstatic if my kid's finishing all their stuff and ready to go to college, or has all the classes that they need to as their requisite and they're passing everything. That's a lot right there, let alone all these coaches and GMs talking to you. And then to further that on is there may be opportunities that you're missing because you don't even know what is the NIL, what players are getting, what do you deserve as a player of the caliber that you're talking about? Because there is also that gap where players still are not taking advantage to the degree that they could for their betterment.
Yeah, it's so the reason why it's so difficult for, I think, kids and parents to maneuver is because 5 years ago, right, you'd go onto a team, you're not constantly thinking about, and neither is the coach constantly thinking about, what players am I about to get in the transfer portal in 6 months. You're absolutely right. Every 6 months, everything changes. You have the spring transfer portal, you have the winter transfer portal, right? But the coach is always now, like, you thought recruiting was bad when it was just trying to get freshmen, right, to come up throughout the year. No. It's worse now. They're actively recruiting from other universities during the season. Oh, I just played him. Yeah, he was a nice player. Man, we should get him on our team next year. Right? It's an active recruitment for everything now, for other universities and for high school. It's just like the pros. Except they can't formally ask for a trade. The pros, that's the only difference. The pros are scouting other pro teams and they're like, oh, that player, I want him. Let's send over a trade to the team. They can make it public. Yeah, we want him. I want to trade for him. Right? The universities can't do that. Now, this is the first time I ever thought of this. This might happen. It's definitely possible, right? Hey, look, trade and I'll cover his NIL expenses for the rest of the year. That would be insane and exciting at the same time. I would love it if they implemented that. Maybe after this conversation, I might go make a couple phone calls to see if I can implement that. But
wait, go back to that because that's pretty awesome. So you're talking about telling someone that they'll pick up the fees because they're not playing a player, or maybe the player's not given as much. Maybe they're
no, it doesn't matter. Just a trade. Like, hey, I want to trade. I just want to trade.
What would stop that?
I mean, technically, right? Technically, a player is signed to that university. And the only way that university, that player can then talk to another university is by getting that the active release from the university he's currently at, which I've done before. I've told you I've done before. Right? I don't know if there's any rules against him transferring or leaving the university. See, the only issue here would be academically. Academically, could you get the player to go from that University A to transfer University B and get into school at University B, right? Because leaving University A is not the problem. It's getting into the academics at University B. That's the only real issue.
I don't think that would be an issue.
If institutions allowed that mid-semester transfers, which I'm sure they've done before for regular students. I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure that's a thing, right? That's a thing? That's a thing.
Yep.
That's a thing. If you got enough money, anything's a thing, right?
If you have enough willpower, everything's a thing. That's the one thing I've learned about America. If you want something bad enough, you can make it happen. You can fire someone. Right? You can bring someone on mid-project. You can bring someone off mid-project. You can hire whatever talent you want across the board.
These are most of them are private schools anyways. What are they going to say? No? Right?
And then you can get a teacher to bring them up to speed, and you can get them where they want to be with the classes. This is not difficult.
Yeah, dude. Come on. So, I mean, that might be an awesome situation where we start seeing in-season trades. But the point of the story really was, because there's families didn't have to used to worry about transfers coming in all the time. Now you have to. If you think that you went to a school as a freshman, right? You're a 5-star, 4-star quarterback, right? If some other quarterback is playing extremely well in college, why wouldn't the school bring them in? Because they signed you as a freshman? You haven't played college yet. They're trying to win now. Everyone's trying to win now every year. That's the problem. They want to win now and every single year. They don't want to spend 3 years building a team and then the 4th year they go to the playoffs and maybe have a shot. No, they're trying to win every single year now. Starting now.
Yeah, your trade
concept. They have enough money to do it.
Your trade concept has got me, it's distracted me because it's like, if I lose 2 games or I lose 3 games and I'm not making the playoff team, and I have some talented players that I'm paying quite a bit of money to, and I can get them off my books and see what else I have earlier, how do I lose? How is that a lose for me and my program?
Wait. So you're saying you would rather, if you lose 2 to 3 games, you're not in the playoffs.
Right.
So if you lose 3 games, you're thinking, let me trade away my best players to the best teams,
right,
to give them a better chance. But all they're going to do is pick up my tab. They're not going to pay you anything. They're not going to give you anything.
Maybe they will pay you something. There's nothing wrong with them paying an NIL bill here or an NIL bill there for next year, so you can pick up better talent. Again, if we're talking a trade proposal, you're going to have to pay the deal, but you're going to have to pay me money to get him from me.
I guess, but if you have those good players, why wouldn't you keep them?
Because you're going to go to spring ball, you don't know what's going to happen. Everything's take advantage of the moment. If you're able to boost your NIL money by $5 million or something by trading away 3 players, I don't see how that hurts.
Because you still need to replace those players, dude.
They may come back.
Here's the thing. They
could literally come back in spring.
They can, but here's the thing. Yeah, they can come back. They can come back.
I'm just saying, this is what we're talking about is wild, right? It's already wild. And now we're even more in a wild scenario because this could happen. And I understand your point. You can get really angry with a team for trading away talent to help another team win the championship.
Yeah, that's messed up. There needs to be a rule against that.
Okay, I'm just letting you know,
because I would literally just go play there for a season and then just come back.
You'll get to snip the playoffs. You'll come back
because as soon as they enter, if you just tell them to just wait for the transfer portal, they could just jump in the transfer portal. You don't have to pay that fee back. Yeah, no, that's dangerous.
But I'm sure there's stipulations that you could put on the deal that if I trade him and he gets in the transfer portal, the money goes down a certain amount or whatever it may be. I mean, there's ways to.
You want to know? Funny, there is an NCAA rule though. There is an NCAA rule about transferring and going back to your original university. Because I was in this predicament myself. If you transfer to a university, for example, when I transferred from Penn to Duke, right? If I stayed there for like a year and wanted to transfer back, I could without losing eligibility.
Well, you had to stay there.
I don't know if that. No, you can't stay there for more than a year. It might have been one semester. If I would have stayed there for one semester, then I just can go back without losing a year of eligibility. But that doesn't matter anymore because when you transfer, you don't lose eligibility anyways. You're able to play right away. The only problem was that at Penn, we're getting a little sidetracked here. You're not allowed to be a grad student and play in the Ivy League. That's the only problem with taking too much time in the Ivy League.
Ivy League's a different story. Not many people are in that world, clearly.
Yeah. I mean, if the Ivy League got involved, it would be over with very quickly. Just so you know.
If you wanted, you've said that a million times. If there was going to be a change, again, there's been so many changes every year about players, transfer portals, all this other stuff. My only thing that I would say, if I was in college, is why would I need to do any trades? Because the transfer portal is so available that I should be able to access these players if they enter the transfer portal by the spring. So he's not going to play on my system. I won't be able to incorporate him anyways. So the trade aspect of it is just not timely because the transfer portal is so available.
Dude, you know, in college football, they have, just like in the pros now, they have the microphone in the helmet now. You don't need to know anything. Literally, the coach could just tell you what to do.
So understanding the process for the program is not as difficult as it once was.
Well, okay. Understand this. Think about this for a second. You see now that we've been working together for almost a year now, I think, or plus. How many people transfer and how often people transfer, correct?
Correct. Yep.
Do you think college coaches, there's an adaptation for them as well? They cannot bring in and kick out so many players and not have something so simple so that it doesn't matter how late they come, they can get it right away. Because the point isn't to teach these players something super complicated. The point is to get them on the field as soon as possible so they can play for the team and win. So understand that the coaches have to adapt too. They can't have a super complicated playbook. They can't have all these nuances and things that are confusing for these players coming from other universities. Like They have to be able to make a quick transition and get on the field.
Correct. That's another aspect of this. That's interesting. You're not wrong.
You know what I'm saying?
I know exactly what you're saying. Like you can't be like, here's your 4,500 page playbook. It's got to be 45 pages.
Yeah, like the dude, like for example, this past transfer portal season, right? Like you're gonna expect Nico, Vera, right? For example, to go through and he learned college football at Tennessee. That's all he knows. Tennessee college football. Whatever they do, their schemes, their plays, and all that stuff. Now you want him to go to UCLA in the span of maybe 3, 4, 5 months at the max, learn a whole new playbook and players just like that. Just, hasn't been in the system, doesn't know anything, doesn't know any of the players that he's playing with.
No, you're going to make it as easy as possible.
Exactly.
You're going to make it
as easy as possible.
You want it to be peanut butter and jelly. Like my favorite line,
right?
If you ever talk to anybody in the military and they left the military and you ask them like, what's the diet that, you can live on? They're like, peanut butter and jelly. I can live on peanut butter and jelly. I've had worse, I've had better, Literally. But at the end of the day, that's all I need. And I'm like, that's what you need when you're talking to these college. Here's What do
Yeah,
I do on this play? Cover 2, cover 3, whatever it may be. That's why you see busted coverages. That's why you see that. And again, if you're a coach in college and you're like, I'm going to be really, really complicated, I'm going to draw up some cool schemes to confuse the quarterback, and your defensive players, you're confusing them more than you're confusing the offense. Well, guess what? You just lost the game. Bye.
literally.
Enjoy
That
it.
is the point, because you have so many like, there's the development stage is gone. There's no development stage, right?
So what does that do to?
When you
Okay, so pause that for a second. When you're talking about the development stage and that this everything's being simplified, now go to the NFL now. What does that do to the NFL and the expectation of the kids coming in the NFL?
Oh no, you're a pro. You don't have school. This is your life.
Okay, so it's like this is here it is. So like again, when your brother signs with the Eagles, it's not like, okay, we're gonna kind of, they just dumped
No,
you.
you got to learn the whole playbook. No. The pros is different. You're a professional. I'm paying you to play football.
And if you don't
Not
learn it, you're
you're
out.
coming to this like, yeah, at school you have to have these classes. You got to do this. You probably got to catch up in your summer classes to have a certain amount for your degree in order for you to be eligible. You have to have a certain amount of your degree finished in order to still be playing on the football field. Right? So you got to do all these things. You got to go do all this unnecessary stuff that's still an aspect of these players' lives, right? You're still a kid. You're still going through the whole I like girls phase and social and drinking and all this other stuff that comes with being a college kid. We're not even talking about a college football player. And then you have to learn a playbook. In the pros, you're a grown man and you better know this playbook, because this is your job. That's it. I don't care what's going on in your life.
Right.
You know? And these schools are not like, I mean, the school's not easy. It's like you still got to spend time on it. Doesn't matter what school you're going to. You could say, oh, I go to whatchamacallit State, or, I go to Penn.
You're still spending
you still
hours.
have to do the work.
Hours and lectures, and you're still doing all that. To your point, that's correct. But I just think that you're right about what they're viewing and what you're viewing and what the players have to be, and you're right about the coaching aspect. Like the best coaches in college are going to be the ones that are able to get the most talent.
Yeah.
But there's a carrot on that. It's not just the talent. You got to be able to scheme with that talent in a way that they understand it and they can execute it. Because you can be the best schemer in the world, and if nobody knows what you're trying to scheme, you're terrible.
You gotta manage a lot of things in college, right? And the pros, they're pros, right? And you think about all the anxiety on a college football team, right? A college football team is roughly double the size of an NFL team. So in college, you have no idea really what's going on. You could be replaced in 4 seconds. In the pros, everyone knows what it is, right? The Eagles, Saquon Barkley, you're the starting running back. That's what it is. There's no, let's see who's going to beat you out. That's not how this works.
Derrick Henry, right? We'll see how Derrick Henry shows up next year. Right? Maybe he'll be the starting running back. No, there is none of that. No, it's like
Jalen Hurts, you're the starting quarterback. Yes. That's it, right? Yes. And then you got 2 backups, maybe 3.
And they know their job. Their job is to prepare.
And they all know their job.
Right.
Everyone on the team knows their job. Avery, you are the punt returner and the kick returner. That's what you're doing.
And be great at it. Be great at it.
Fantastic, right? Everyone has their role. In college, you don't really know that. There's like maybe 4 or 5 guys with that luxury.
That's a very good point, because there's so that just when you're watching college football or any highlights next time, just look at the bench. Just look at how many people are wearing the uniform. And there's 11 guys on the field.
There's some schools that have double jerseys. There's some schools with 2 players with the same number.
Oh, yes. I've seen that. Yes.
Yeah, many times. Many times.
Yep. It's very, very, very normal. Very, very normal. Yeah, I'm trying to think of what kind of game this is, because it's not even a normal game of life. This is the part that if I go back to the beginning of what we talked about, and I talked about having a plan. If you're a player with a plan and you're up against 80 players with no plan, how much better and confident do you feel going to the next stage. When they're talking to you as a consultant or a manager or whatever it may be, you putting together a plan makes you I can't even describe how much better you are than the next person. If I'm just showing up and thinking this is how it works and I get steamrolled and you've developed a 4-year plan for someone, I'm going to look at that and say, I got a plan. If I stick to the plan, then I can just focus on doing what I'm supposed to do, getting the film. Mason's going to help take care of the rest of the noise. And that's a godsend.
Yes, but you also got to realize too that there's no 4-year plan. There's no 4-year plan. There's a 3-year, 4-year goal,
Correct.
But there's no plan, because that plan, like you said earlier, everything changes every 6 months. If it changes for the coach, it changes for you, right?
I agree with you, but if I go at it alone with my mom and dad, I mean, come on. There's a huge difference in having you in the corner than having your parents. There's just so much happen. That's my whole point. Is
because your plan is probably your plan at that university. My plan is my plan for you in college football.
Correct.
Like, you're looking at it like, oh, I'm going to go to this university. I'm going to work hard. I'm going to play eventually or now or whatever the case is, right? My plan is, I need you to get all this film while you're here, because if I need to move you, I can move you as quickly as I want to move you. Because it's all about speed. Because again, if a coach is telling me, hey, I'm looking for, they don't tell me the name of the player. I mean, they do sometimes, but they tell me, I want a 6'1" wide receiver who ran track in high school, who played this from a power 4 with at least this many yards and possibly this many touchdowns. They're going to say high budget, low budget, medium budget. That's what's going to happen, right? I'm not the only agent he's texting that to.
But if you don't have an agent, you're not getting the text.
You're definitely not getting that text.
That's my point. Is like, you're in the back row thinking you're driving a car, and you ain't driving anything.
Right. And I know that even if I give him that model of a player, that's not the only player he's getting or he's looking at.
Correct.
Right? So even if I give him that exact thing, the 6'1" wide receiver, ran a 10.5 in high school track, had 750 yards and 10 touchdowns, right? Perfect. I hit all the markers. There's probably 3 or 4 other ones just like that.
There's no doubt about it.
I don't represent all 4.
But again,
in the kid's case, you're only one of those 4.
but you're also able to buffer the expectation.
Yeah, I mean, my job really as an agent is to lower the expectation of my player and heighten the expectation of the team in any level, high school, college, pro.
I can tell you this, all of our conversations, I remember before all of this, how important signing day was for a high school kid picking the university. The more we talk and the more we have conversations, the more I think of the insignificance of the signing day.
Very, very insignificant. Well, more insignificant than it was.
Yeah, because you could literally be like, that was a fun 6 months. I signed with that team. I'm ready to move on.
Really? I mean, you already know I've had a situation where the kid had to sign and then release before he even got to the first university and then went somewhere else.
And that was a big
signing day for what?
That was a big deal because you remember the McDonald's game, and they always were selected the hats, and everyone's all you're going to have this player for 4 years, and this player is going to be unbelievable.
I don't have a single kid in college. Wait, I have one kid in college. Nope. I do not have a single kid in college that's been at the same university as his whole career, and I have sophomores.
And when you hear the chime ring, everyone plays musical chairs. That's just what we are in.
My musical chair started before the chime.
Oh, absolutely. That's the other part of the plan that I think people don't understand. It's not just that this happens. It's that there's a plan in place before it's happening, that you're navigating what the waters look like out there. Are they good for you? Are they not good for you? Do you transfer down? Do you transfer over? All of those
Yeah.
conversations are had before. If you don't put together a plan, then you're like, I'm in the transfer portal last minute. I'm going to pick this university because I like what the coach said to me. Then you get there, you're like, wait, there's 3 other kids at my position. Wait, I feel lied to. Guess what, everybody? That's the coach's job. The coach's job is to get talent, and the coach's job is to get talent to be able to compete. And
Yeah. Which is why, I'm always on the side of the player with all of this stuff. Because these coaches, they're going to bring in 4 or 5 of those players of the same position and be like, oh, I'm sorry, we don't have enough room anymore. Like,
right.
no, you're not the only player. You're not the only player that they want.
But man, when they talk to those kids, they make them feel like they're the only player in the world. That's the other thing, is you are up against some of the smartest, best salesmen in the world. They didn't become a coach at the NCAA level because they're bad at talking to kids. They lay it on so well, and these kids feel so good. Then you get there and it's like, oh, I thought I was, wait a second. Nope.
Okay.
You're competing
Let
every
me
time. Yeah, go ahead.
let me tell you this. UCLA, right?
Yep.
Nico Amala Vea. You know they brought his younger brother in, right?
No, I did. Where is his younger brother from?
No, he's a freshman. His name's
Okay.
Madden,
So
right?
he gets to play with his brother.
Yeah. But also, they brought in Joey Aguilar and Pierce Clarkson. They brought in other quarterbacks.
With
Joey
Nico.
was already there before Nico.
Right.
They brought him in December. Then they had spring ball. And then they brought in Nico and another quarterback. My point being, they are always going to bring in other players.
Yep.
Even when they got their guy. It's so bad. It's so bad.
So when you,
I'm
again,
telling you.
when you and I are on the player's side, it's because if you go before all of this, before the transfer portal, before contracts, coaches would bring in these 4 or 5 players, and then you would lose your scholarship. They would cut you from the team. You would lose your scholarship.
Sometimes they don't. They're not super high on that, but
Not now.
happened.
But if you go back, like, how did we end up here? Everyone's like, oh, well, these coaches had such an advantage over the players. And then the coach could leave right after the season, go to another program, and you're still playing for that university because you cannot leave. Or you could leave and you lost a year of eligibility because you had to sit for a year if you decided to leave. So if you want to know why we're on the player side, or you want to know why we ended up here, people forget how much of an advantage the coaches had to run free, do whatever they wanted, and the players were stuck with whatever decision they made at 16 and 17.
Yeah.
So now the player's not stuck with that decision at 16 or 17. How many decisions have you made at 16 or 17 that you're like, I am so glad I'm still making that same damn decision? 0 of you. None of you.
Yeah.
But we held these kids to that regard, being sold by the best salesman in the world. And we're like, well, you agreed and you signed that sheet, so you got to go to that university, and you committed. And we look bad at them if they ever decommitted. Well, now we're here today where the players look out for themselves. And guess what? The coaches enjoy it too. The coaches like going to the transfer portal to pick up talent. The coaches like finding talent. Surprise, surprise. They like bringing in 4 quarterbacks. If they didn't like it, they wouldn't be doing it. If they were,
Well,
if
at
they're
the end
like,
of the day,
yeah,
make sure you have someone who has a very good grip on the landscape in your corner.
you got to be looking at the whole picture.
Yeah, and I wouldn't even. I was talking to my business partner the other day. I think to be proficient in everything that's going on, an agent would probably know maybe 70 to 80% of what's going on. I don't think anyone knows 100% of what's going on. I would consider myself to be at a 50-60 range, maybe. Right? Solid.
Right.
There are agents that know more than me. Absolutely. There's no doubt about it. But you out. The parent probably knows maybe 5%, 10% at the max if they're paying attention. So, you know,
I don't doubt that one bit. Yeah, we continue to just peel this back a little more. And every time I listen to this, the more I keep thinking about these players, and I'm like, you got to be talking to somebody. You got to talk to somebody outside
crazy.
your circle.
As soon as you get to that super upper echelon of like, oh, I'm the best player, then you're good. You're good. You know, you're good. But we're not targeting, right? We're not talking to those players that have it easy, the 5 stars that can just go wherever they want. And it's kind of set for them, right? These are the players, 4 stars, 3 stars, 2 stars, and no stars, right? The kids that still have talent, but need to be very savvy on how they move in order to get where they want to go.
Yep.
Because a lot of times they may get replaced when these players are good, but they don't even simply get an opportunity to even show it, because every single transfer season, there's a older player coming in who's already proved themselves. It's like trying to get a job with no experience, right? When you're a freshman in college.
Yep.
It's like, I can't really trust that. I want to win right now. So why don't I just go pick this guy off from the transfer portal who's really just looking for some more money? He can play wherever he wants. I've got some money to give him. All right, I might as well just take him. Because at that point, I'm already in a hole, whatever, hundreds of thousands of dollars or $1 million or whatever the case is. So he's going to play. I can't do anything about it.
Right.
You could just wait another year, right? They don't care about your eligibility. It's not like they just give you another redshirt year to save your time while someone else is coming in from another university to play over you. It's tough luck, man.
That is always the case. Well, as always, I appreciate the conversation. I look forward to more as we get into the summer, and then obviously get ready for predictions of what we see is going to be the future landscape of college football in the playoffs. I know this has upended every other sport as well, but the way that I look at it is, if you're the player and you can take advantage of the situation, that's what you need to be doing for you and for your family. As always, Mason, thank you so much for joining. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and follow. Leave your comments. Mason will be happy to respond to them, and we look forward to all of your input. Thanks, everybody.
Appreciate it.